All right, good afternoon to everyone. Good morning, good evening if you are in other zones. I'm Elizabeth Ann West, and this is Sudowrite Story Engine. It is the 101 class, but we're deviating it a little bit today, and I'm trying to get this video up for for YouTube as well. I will confess that my asthma is acting up a little bit, so if I seem a little bit not quite 100%, that's why. Stupid breathing, who needs it? I'm waiting for the day that we all have these bio mechanized suits and everything that kind of handles it for us. Um, so we're going to go to we're going to go ahead and work with work in progress today. So I'm bringing one of my projects into the game today, and we're going to explore it because we already did Story Engine 101 where it was like from the get-go, and I'm going to show how you might be able to work with something that you have a little bit more progress on. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and you're going to see a database or a spreadsheet. Oh no, not a spreadsheet. Actually, I like spreadsheets a lot when I'm working with Story Engine because I find it helps me a lot to keep track of everything. And then I can bring that information into Story Engine. So what I have here is something I was working on. It's called A Witch Comes to Pemberley. And the idea here is, how many of you ever saw the movie? Do you guys remember the movie Teen Witch by any chance? Does anyone remember that movie about a 16-year-old girl? Like Top That. No, Top That, the bad rap battle in the streets and everything. But the whole idea of it was like she was a witch with latent powers and she came into her powers. Yeah. So I loved that movie as a kid. And I'm coming with this idea of if you kind of read these story prompts here that I have, the basic commands for the scenes. There was a witch trial back in 1441, and Elizabeth D'Arcy is betrayed by her husband. Thomas D'Arcy, over his love for a mistress, and turns his wife, Elizabeth, over to a witch hunter. She's burned at the stake, but not before saying she would rise again to reclaim her rightful soulmate, and cursing the land of Pemberley to keep greatness just out of reach of its masters, and damning any womb from giving live birth on the grounds until she finds a love that's fidelis. Pretty heavy stuff, right? So, excuse me, fast forward to 300 years. I'm imagining, what if Mr. Wickham or Mr. Darcy, because Mr. Darcy's cursed himself and he doesn't really believe in it. So it's keeping that greatness just out of their reach. Georgiana did run away with Mr. Wickham. She died in childbirth. So Mr. Darcy never went to Hertfordshire in this story. This is an alternative universe, Pride and Prejudice. And instead, Mr. Bingley did go to Netherfield. And I'm imagining that without Mr. Darcy's influence, would you all agree that he probably would have just married Jane Bingley and everything would have been happy, sappy, wonderful? No need to tell that story. And so now we're in 1813, and he renewed the lease for a year at Netherfield Park, but the lease can't be renewed. And I'm imagining that Mr. Bennet died shortly after their wedding. So Mrs. Bennet lives in London on the generosity of her brother Gardner, and took Kitty and Mary and Lydia for the season to find husbands. So now we have Jane and Charles Bingley, and we have, yes, you need me to zoom in a little bit. We have Jane and Charles Bingley, and then we have Caroline. So basically I've broken up each scene here, and what I'm going to do, oh, witch hunter needs to be spelled correctly. Let's see here. The witch hunter. I'm going to just grab everything that I've got so far, because I actually have a hole here in the middle where I hadn't quite finished the story. And I'm just going to come over into Sudowrite, and I'm going to do a new project. And we'll call this Story Engine 101, which comes to Pemberley. And I'm going to go to Story Engine. So your Story Engine is available on the left-hand side here. And once I do that, I'm just going to throw everything into my, okay, the maximum length for this field. I didn't put my stuff in there. Hold on. Wait a minute. I'm going to copy it and then bring it here and paste it. Why is it not pasting? Why are you being a jerk? Okay, let's do this. Let's go out of this.
I was having that trouble earlier today.
Oh, because it's 2,500 words, so it's too long. Okay. So let's go ahead and just grab, I'll take this little bit. Yeah, it's over 2,000 words. Let me grab to, I don't know. I'm going to go to the end and then I'm going to go. Okay, I can't actually edit it this way. Let me zoom out a little bit. I need to look at this a little bit better. I apologize. I just need to see what, it kind of pasted it as a mess. So let me do it this way. Let me grab all this and let me just delete that. Let's go with the beginning. So I have the beginning right here, and we'll go back to Story Engine. We'll put the beginning in here. That was 343 words. Come back to my spreadsheet. Dinner at Pemberley. I want the book to choose her, kind of a thing. So there's like some mystical stuff going on there. That brings us to 1,400 words. Okay, and then this is the ending. All right, so we have that information. So we're under now. Okay, so I got everything in there. The genre is going to be Regency, fiction, magical realism. And my style is, let's see here. Period appropriate language, historical fiction goes in my genre group. If anyone has any questions what I'm doing, let me know. I know I'm doing this kind of just like demoing it. Period appropriate language, lots of dialogue.
Is there like a guide for the genre to make it more like, I see you see magical realism, stuff like that. Is there any sort of guidance for like what I should be putting in there?
We don't at the moment, so just put what you know about genre in there.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of a testing thing. I'm sure we can put together a guide, but we're all working on how to learn how to use. Yeah. It's such a new way of writing.
The same thing with style too, then, right? Like there's okay.
Exactly. I would say, ask ChatGPT for a list of genres.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. This thing really does work on GPT-4 and GPT 3.5. So if you ever have questions, you can just ask GPT. We're going to bring that functionality in here. We just don't have it yet, where you could chat and ask the question. But we do have these question marks here where it does give some examples.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a question about the outline. Can you add subplots?
Yes, you can either do it manually or you can make sure that there's a subplot in your synopsis.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just putting all this in Brain Dump and I'm going to click generate my synopsis now.
Question about the time period in your style. Would it be better to put the specific years, or is it Regency historical good enough?
You could put the specific years if you want to be that exact.
Okay.
So we have this. And then I'm gonna fix my summary here because my synopsis, because it's missing the middle. And that's because I didn't feed it the middle. It only took like my brain dump and got it down there. The next day she takes a walk and that's where Mrs. Reynolds tells her this is where the witch is burned at a stake. The middle of the book shows the conflict of Elizabeth not believing her powers, but coming into her powers. Funny pranks, magical pranks on Caroline Bingley. The other thing that I wanted to realize too is that in the middle, Elizabeth Bennet realizes she's falling for Mr. Darcy, but on a walk while testing her powers, she spies him going to a tenant family and embracing a child. She assumes he has fathered a child with a tenant, but later learns the child is his nephew born out of wedlock when his sister died from an affair with Mr. Wickham. Mr. Darcy is having the child cared for on the property.
The way you wrote that, when his sister died, it sounds like his sister died from having the child out of
Yes.
wedlock. Okay.
Yes. Well, there's a curse on the land that no one can have a live baby.
Ah, okay.
Mrs. Reynolds puts,
Time to sell a house.
huh?
I said, time to sell a house.
Yeah. That her sister will die if she does not get Mr. Darcy to love her. Elizabeth rejects this. And when Jane goes into labor, but finds herself falling in love with Mr. Darcy and spending time with him. As Jane goes into labor, and there is no declaration of love between them, Elizabeth goes to the portrait room and screams at the portrait of the original Elizabeth Darcy and says that revenge is not how she will use her powers, and she calls upon the spirit realm to help her break the curse herself. So that was an important story element to me. I wanted to change it to where like she realizes she has the power to break the curse on her own, and she just lifts the curse, and then she still ends up with Mr. Darcy anyway. But it's not, I don't want it to be Mr. Darcy is the conduit of how the curse is broken. Does that make sense? That's the magical realism aspect of it. So there we go. That's what my synopsis is going to be. I'm not really sure about the spelling, Sally. That's a good question. You can test out UK spelling. If you start with UK spelling, it'll probably just continue with it. I just went ahead and clicked generate the characters. So I should have probably also told it for genre that this was an alternative universe, Pride and Prejudice, so it doesn't think that it needs to do that, but we'll see. So I'm going to change Fitzwilliam Darcy's characterization because that's not the right characterization for him. He will have his insecurities and prejudices, but he does not believe in the curse. He thinks it's hogwash. She serves as a mentor family figure to Elizabeth. That's perfect. So I'm actually going to take out the Thomas D'Arcy because he's not a character in the main one. He's just in the flashback. So I'm going to take out Thomas D'Arcy because he's not right. We have Elizabeth Bennet, Fitzwilliam Darcy, Caroline Bingley, Jane Bennet, Mrs. Reynolds. Who am I missing here? I'm missing Charles Bingley. That's who's more important. Charles Bingley, Jane's husband, Caroline's brother rather, and Mr. Darcy's best friend. He is looking for an estate in the area and starting his family. He is friendly and tires of Caroline's constant competition with Elizabeth. So we're setting that up. And does not believe in the curse. His own insecurities and prejudices. Yep. And that's true. She'll stop at nothing. All right. I think we're good. Her ancestors.
Number 2, it says Pemberley does not believe in the curse and his growing feelings for Elizabeth.
Yeah, he doesn't at first, but he eventually falls in love with her. Yeah.
Okay.
Her ancestors served the original Darcy family for over 300 years. And let's see here. We have a gentle and compassionate soul. Is safely delivered a son. Okay, there we go. Love and trust. She doesn't want to be forced into a marriage. Okay, so there we go. And so I'm picking up on themes about this time period and everything like that, where women would be forced into marriage. So I'm really setting up this scenario where she comes up into powers and she still doesn't want to be forced into a marriage. It doesn't matter. She's a powerful witch. Don't make me get married. And now I'm going to click generate the outline and we'll see how it goes. Is this helping everyone to see how you would handle bringing in an existing story? That you just summarize it, bringing it into story dump or bringing it into brain dump. Then you go ahead and you validate the synopsis and make sure it's what you want. Then you validate the characters, make sure they're what you want, and everything like that.
This someone asked how I've gotten so many usable words, Elizabeth.
Sorry?
And someone asked in the chat how I had gotten so many usable words so quickly, and this is exactly how.
Right. You brought the pieces to the party that you already knew.
Yes.
Yeah. Like I already see where I'm going to have to change that outline, that section, that part 1. I'm going to need to have it be the, I'm going to actually copy and paste the piece that I have in my, my outline, changing it completely. So while this is generating the outline, basically all of this is pieces that could be a section in the outline because these are individual scenes. So no matter what it comes up with, I could actually choose to go ahead and change these and bring them in. And that's actually what I'm going to do. Because I don't have time in this class to actually validate all of these pieces while it's going. I'm just letting it generate so you could see that you can get all these pieces in here.
Elizabeth, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you, Sass.
Was that a spreadsheet you had?
Yes, it's a spreadsheet that I created. This is how I like to work for my books. And I was using, this is before Story Engine ever existed. I was working on this project. Wow, that seems like so long ago.
Well, I'll ask you maybe in the slide. I don't want to take time away. But by the way, this session yesterday, I reviewed it on YouTube. It was just great.
Great. Thank you so much. So what if you, I asked, but I'm having trouble with chat. Thanks, William. That's very helpful. Okay, thank you. I'm sorry if I missed your question. You can always unmute and ask. Can you start your own list of characters with only sparse and use feedback to flesh out their character profile? Yes, you can, Paula. I just didn't already have a character list ready at the ready. I was like, okay, it's just going to extract this character list. And then I went ahead and made changes. I cut one of the characters and then I don't need this information here, but I mean, it can kind of influence it, but I'm just going to take that out. I don't need that part. you can bring your own characters to the party. I think the outline is done, and I don't think the outline's terrible. So knowing myself that if I just were to run Story Engine with this, if I was just to click, 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 and go, 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 I know each one of these would be 2,500 words. So doing a quick calculation, I'm gonna get my calculator out. I can usually do this in my head, but not today. 4 times 3 times 2,500. That would be 30,000 words that I would be able to get as a skeleton of this thing, and then start to put in different scenes in between. That's not my style. I like to have my own. So what I'm going to do is I'll do that in just 1 second. When I'm going to do this, let me answer that question, Candy. Change the outline. Do I need to go back and change the synopsis? If you want, in the current iteration, if you want your commands to be accurate and not have logical problems, your outline, your characters, your synopsis, and your brain dump should be in harmony. They shouldn't be in conflict with each other. So because I'm coming to the party with already information that I know I want, I'm literally going to just copy this box and change that to be my first one. And actually, instead of getting rid of what they already have, I'm just going to enter down, and we'll call this part 2. Don't worry, I'm going to fix the conflict. I know that there's 2 part 2s now. So I'm going to pop that in there. Then I'm going to grab this and make that change to part 2. I don't think I need this information about Elizabeth Bennet at all, because it's not actually a scene. And now I will bring in part 3. So this is kind of a later information, so I'm actually going to change that. That one wasn't helpful, that part. I'm validating it as I go. That's why I'm going fast. It was begrudging that Mr. Darcy even gave the invitation. I'm fixing the pronouns because pronouns are something that can confuse the AI, so it doesn't understand. So Caroline spends the whole carriage ride to Pemberley telling Elizabeth all about Pemberley and Mr. Darcy and how exciting he is in his standards, or exacting he is, not exciting. So now we're going to arrive at Pemberley. So section 2 goes into the conflict about that. So I'm actually going to do part 3 here and change this to actually part 4. I need another part 5. All of this is really the introduction, because I'm not at the conflict yet. So shown to her rooms. So this is more just, we're going this way. I'm sorry.
Is there a limit to the parts?
Nope.
Not from the perspective of that it will take it, but that it will work well with it. Like if you had 20 parts.
Each part should not be more than 150 words. So I would want to validate here. So that one's 109 words. So and that's another reason how you can work with why a spreadsheet can help you. Let me insert here. I always forget how to do this. Google Sheets, check if a cell has more than 150 words. So yeah, this is a count tool. Oh, I don't want the tutorial. Count if, that's what I want. There we go. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go equals count if. That's a conditional. And I got to do my range next for the example. So it's a parentheses. Fix the count if. And this is just my workflow. I'm not suggesting everybody has to work this way. This is just the way I do things. Oh, Josh is amazing. So I have the range that I want to do, and I want to go equals in parentheses greater than 150 words. I think I actually want to just say C2. Actually, I don't think this is the right formula. Hold on. If range contains check to check against, criterion must be a string. Criterion can count. So count if, you know what? Just formula Google Sheets, words in a cell, count words in a cell. 'Cause I'll just do the thing manually. Count a, okay, that's what we'll do. Count a. Yeah, so we'll just do that. That's our formula. Equals count a this. How many words are there? Not one. That's not right. Count words. Okay, I guess you. All right, we'll just copy and paste the whole thing then, the whole formula. This is how I iterate, guys. So I'm going to put that in here. It's going to be C2. And let's see what it does. Error. What did I do wrong? You know what? Just count. How about that? Let's just do this. Zero. Okay. So there is a way to figure out what, I know that there's a formula. Does anyone know the formula for Google Sheets? How do you find out how many words? Oh, why can I not find out this thing? Get the word count in Google Sheets. Oh, the len function to count the letters. I don't want that. I want to count the words. Maybe I can't count the words. Maybe that's not a thing.
I'm sorry. I think I got us off on a tangent.
No, it's okay. So, but that is something that I would do, is I would try to figure out how many words are in the thing. And what I do actually have a tool, which is Write Counter Plus. So it's 85. So I'd make sure that each one of these isn't more than 150 words. So, and that's because the summary boxes can't handle more than that. So let me just finish copying and pasting these in. So I've got up to part 6. And actually, let's just go with that for right now. It doesn't necessarily need to know the end of the story because it already knows the end of the story. So I'm actually going to delete the rest of these parts. The reason I'm going to delete that is because I don't want them influencing my story yet. Does that make sense to everybody? Because if it can see that in the outline, it will take that into consideration. My commands are already going to generate knowing what's going to happen at the end of the story from the synopsis. I think that's right. Synopsis is, yeah, because commands is brain, synopsis, and characters, and outline and everything.
So if you have a surprise twist or something you're going to spring on the reader, you don't want that in there now.
You can, you do. I just don't have time to validate it for this class. I'm going to have to go through and copy and paste because I don't have it in the right format. So we were at 6, I think, and there's still, well, I guess I could put the rest of these in, but I already deleted it. So we're just going to move forward with what I have right now. So basically, this is my outline. I've changed this entirely. This is not Sudowrite's outline at all. This is my outline that I brought in. And I'm just going to work on the introduction. But the story engine is going to know the end of the story because I have the end of story in the synopsis. Does that make sense? And I also have everything in my brain dump. So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to go introduction part 1, scene 1. Let's go. And it knows that this is a flashback. So it's only going to pull these characters in. It's not going to pull the other characters in because they're not listed. So I'm going to click generate for the commands. And so it's going to read the synopsis. It's reading the brain dump right now. It's reading the character list right now. It's reading the entire outline right now. And it's taking that all into consideration before it writes these commands. I also didn't say that this was a flashback, but that's okay. And then over here in my style and genre, just so you guys can see, it does know that it's a Regency historical fiction, magical realism, period appropriate language, lots of dialogue, and a real page turner for readers. That's the only information I gave it for the writing style. Does anyone else have asthma? Am I the only one? Okay.
I have it, and this time of year is really hard. I'm in the Midwest.
Yeah.
Like northern Midwest.
Thank you. So this is cool that it's talking about all this. Oh man. There we go. I don't think I want this last little bit, setting the stage for future events and the eventual rise of Elizabeth Bennet. We don't need that there. We're going to do this. I'm going to change it to that.
Does
Oh.
it commonly try to like wrap everything up?
Yes.
Okay.
That is the nature of the AI. We work really hard to change it, but it's a line, it's a losing battle. I am going to put in
Okay.
here that it's going to be third person point of view, omniscient narrator.
Mm.
I know that gives people hives, but that's the way I write. I do head hopping. And I'm going to click generate. Ooh, dearest Thomas, how could you betray me so? Betrayal is a strong word, my love. Uh-oh. And she turned around to see her husband. Okay, I'm actually going to cancel and stop it right there. Does everyone see the problem? Right here.
How did you cancel or stop it?
I clicked cancel. There was a cancel button up here.
Oh, okay.
So there's a cravat. So it's a little confused. This is not the AI's fault. This is my fault. I'm going to delete all that out. I'm going to come over here, and where I have the genre, I'm not going to say Regency historical fiction. I'm going to say 1441 historical fiction magical realism, because for this particular scene, it's a flashback and it needs to be 1441, not 1812. Does that make sense to everyone? Just for this one scene, I just have to do that. So I'm going to click generate again, and now I should get 1441. And we may have to tweak it again because it may do a lot of thys and thithers, and I don't know. And I'm probably going to change that too, because Pemberley's not going to exist. It's probably going to be called Pember. I forgot about that. Ooh, she walked in on them. Oh my goodness. Indeed, you would have preferred if your deceit had remained hidden forever, would you not? Oh, I'm here for this. This is some tea. Is it my fault then that you, a man of weak morals and weaker resolve, have chosen to dishonor our marriage? I beg your forgiveness. Ooh. They say your wife is no ordinary woman. She possesses strange powers. Oh my gosh, that hussy. Now, I would probably tweak this scene a little bit. It's not going to happen just like this. There would be like a vignette or something like that. I might even just save this in my back pocket and have it be flashbacks that Elizabeth sees and dreams. That's another thing that I could do in this story, because that's how she comes to learn of it, or something like that, or she reads it in a journal. There's a lot of different options here for me. But I'm really proud of how it's writing right now. And do you guys see how I got what I wanted by putting in the information and tweaking the outline and bringing how I was able to bring my own outline to the party? That was the big thing that I wanted to show today. How do you bring a project that you already have strong ideas about, that you already have parts of it already outlined? Oh, Master Grimwood. What do you guys think of it so far? Are you able to read parts of it as it's going, or is it too fast?
It's really good.
I don't have him come back. I just have it as, I mean, he's not a witch. He's not special. He was just a guy. I'm a God-fearing woman. I would never dabble in such heinous practices.
Can you start with just a sentence? I sometimes only have the first sentence.
Not with this tool, you can't, but you can with our laser tools. So if you go to our
Okay.
YouTube channel, watch the YouTube video about the write and the rewrite. I think the video is called How to Write Fiction with AI. And that's a real deep dive with our write and our rewrite tools, which is not Story Engine. That's just in our normal documents that you can do that with.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
Yep. Story Engine's a different kind of tool. It's definitely designed to be able to write large pieces of fiction. I've been using AI for a long time, and one of the frustrations I had was like, if I want to do anything in ChatGPT or anything like that, I have to prompt it and copy and paste and prompt it and copy and paste and prompt it and copy and paste. And I really wanted a tool that I could just give it all the commands and basically prompt it all at once. And so I could just get the chapter out of it or get the scene out of it. Yes, this is all section 1, part 1. And it was everything, because right here in my summary, she was going to find out she was betrayed. The witch hunter was going to come in, and then she was going to curse the land. So the commands that it came up with 1 through 12 here are, you know, these things happening. And when you do the scene prose, it'll put 1 through 2 right here. And that tells me 1 and 2. And then everything is commands 1 and 2 until I get to 3 and 4. Once I get to 3, 4, I can come up here and verify my commands. The witch hunter arrives at Pemberley. She tries to defend herself. And that's exactly what was happening right here in 3 and 4, where the witch hunter is interrogating her. So these are kind of like disjointed chunks. It would be on me to kind of put them together. It's not the AI's fault. I put it into the commands that way because that's what I wanted. And we're going to do one more scene together. I want to show how I would take it back up into 1812 once this is done generating. But these are 1,600 good words that I would play with, and I would take them in and I would start editing them. So she's at the trial.
So every time, if you keep regenerating that it counts against your total words. Is that true?
Yes,
Okay.
it's deducting 1,700 words right now for my quota.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's a big, this is an advanced tool. And this is also why we don't have it available to people with the hobby plan, and Legacy is just not compatible with it because of the way that that's hard coded with older models and stuff. It doesn't have the context window to do the prompting. So only the Pro and the Max plan. And I'd really even say that the Pro, those of you with the professional plan, are you finding that you're running out of words just because you're using it? Yeah, even 90,000 words isn't a lot when you're playing with this because you're getting large pieces. If I don't want, I'm going to run it one more time to show once it finishes. Oh my goodness, we're going to get a lot here. We're only on 7 and 8, guys, and there's 12 commands, and we're at 2,000 words already. I'm not unhappy about that though. For me as a writer, I would much rather have all these pieces that I could edit and take out rather than having it perfect. So for me, even if I was not an employee of Sudowrite right now, I personally would be on the Max plan using the 300,000 words. I would want to get 3,000, 4,000 words and edit it down and be able to write a book every month and not have to dictate. In the past, I would have been somebody who would have to dictate these scenes. Now I can run the instructions into an AI, get the raw material, and then start cleaning it up and making it better. Is it picking up style word choice from the dialogue, only from the style and character sections? Yes, it looks at style, genre, and character. You also could put that, so you could put the characterization, Paula, as that. And you also could put those instructions at the end of a specific command. So if I wanted to, the commands here, I'm sorry to scroll up on you guys here. I had 100, 200 more words that I could have still put more instructions here. I could have put like what emotional state is here. I could put other characters. I could insert side characters that maybe don't have a lot of information about them, but give information about them for the scene. You are the conductor. You are the master of this universe. Have fun with it. Make it do all the things that you want it to do for the scene, and then give you rough draft words that you can then go edit and work on. I'm just bringing it back down so you guys can see it more. I really want to see what happens when they burn her. Ooh, here it is. So the first flames were kindling at her feet. She turned her face skyward. By this inferno that engulfs me, may every womb on these cursed grounds refuse life until I find a love unwavering and true. That is a pretty strong curse, if you ask me.
Elizabeth, are you going to be doing another story engine and showing how you would go about changing this to be more the story you want? I mean, editing it.
Yes, I have a YouTube live on Friday this week that I will probably be working on this story and generating a scene from. It'll probably be in the middle of the story, and then I'll show how I edit it up and change it into my words.
Okay.
Yeah. And there is actually already some lives on YouTube from a few weeks ago showing me working with Jaff and showing me using different laser tools and stuff and how much I'm typing myself because I'm not a T-Rex. How do you save? That's a good question. Once it's done generating, I can click these little documents up here at the top right, and I can click copy words and save it. And I can put it anywhere I want. I hear you, Jackie, about your book revenue justifying it. For me, with the books and stuff I have, it would be fine for me. But I do understand that being a sensitivity for authors.
I had a question, but I also wanted to speak to revenue.
Yeah.
I started using Sudowrite about 6 months ago, and I actually took a break from writing. So my progress is based on the platform as it was back then. And the work I generated there has created a ongoing passive income stream of about, it used to be 200 and it's slowly dwindling down, where I'm averaging about $100 a month. So my subscription's paid for, and even
fantastic.
barely touched it the last few months because
Yeah.
life started up. It's like I didn't even mind letting it continue to bill me because it's paying for itself. And then my question was, how do you get the command section to have more stuff happen in them in the first place? Like the way I write, when I have an outline, I know what critical thing needs to happen for the character emotionally, especially in a later scene, but I might not have a lot of good ideas for plot points. And when I've used the story engine today, it kind of took that critical emotional development for the character and just really went into it in a granular way, but it didn't add any, like, extra scene elements or other things that could be going on in that scene besides that one thing. Like maybe I need to use the plot point generator first. I don't know.
That's one idea, or you could flesh out your outline a little bit with taking it into Sudowrite. I'll show how we do that as well in just 1 second here. Okay, so that was 3,500 words. Now this is interesting. The mayor doesn't want to listen. I don't understand this part. She's not talking while she's like being burnt to the spot. It looks like it did loop a little bit because of 11 through 12 as I'm validating this. The townspeople watching horror, but it actually started burning her in 9 and 10. So that's something that I would have to fix. Once I liked it, and I do, I would click my copy button here. We're probably going to have a button to just send it to a document in Sudowrite. And then I would come in here and I would name this scene 1. And then I just paste it in. And it pasted it in the 3,472 words. So I now have that in here to play with. Coming back to Story Engine. Okay, so let's talk about this a little bit. If I have my outline here, and I'm just going to grab this. I copied my outline. I can close this out. Let me do a new document, and then I'll make it bigger for you guys. And I'm just going to paste it in. Oops, not there. And let me go ahead and make my text size big. Okay, so let's pretend I have a part 2 here. And I don't know what's going to happen in it. I just know that Elizabeth and Caroline. So could you give me an example I didn't catch the name of who was speaking earlier about like how you would have like the emotional state of the character and what needs to happen for the character.
Yeah, Sam here. So I might, I write romance, so it might be something like, I'll call her Mary realizes that she's been acting like a child, and her not forgiving Bob is less about his behavior and more about hers.
Okay. So let's say I'm going to translate that for my story now. Let's say I want Elizabeth realizes that she really misses her father, and she hasn't really had a sense of family since he died. So I'm going to put in brackets here. She misses, since her father died last autumn, she hasn't felt a true sense of family. So if I want to do this, and it's an outline format, I can literally highlight this bit here, click rewrite, and let's click show don't tell. It should read around it and still understand I'm in an outline format, but it's going to give me more specific information about that Elizabeth Bennet part, because I put that in brackets so it understands it. So right here, the trip northwards in the carriage was accompanied by heavy silence. Elizabeth Bennet felt a sense of loss since her father passed away last autumn, and she hadn't felt a true sense of belonging to anyone since then. Let me see if I could just click rewrite and try this. I'm going to try customizing. I'm going to say rewrite to translate this into action for a detailed outline, narrative outline. If this works, I'll give you guys that prompt. Don't worry. Ooh, there we go. So this is perfect. This would actually work really well as commands. Elizabeth sat in the carriage, her gaze out the window, distant and heavy. She sighed as memories of her father flooded her mind. Since his demise last autumn, she hadn't felt a true sense of family since. She was surrounded by a new kind of emptiness that had been absent before. If I put that in as my summary, Story Engine is going to try to turn those into specific commands, and it might add in there like Jane asks her questions and stuff like that. But did that help you, Sam, to see how you would translate how somebody feels into actual action?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
I need to rewrite more often than expand.
I'm sorry?
I think I need to start using rewrite instead of expand.
Yeah, rewrite, customize, and telling it how you want it to rewrite. Expand is just going to take that idea and expand it into 300 or 400 words, which isn't necessarily right for our summary. But that took, so what we have here is I had kind of an idea of how her feeling is, her feelings. So I'm putting this in the chat. Feelings were this, and then I did rewrite, customize, and my prompt after highlighting that was the translate this into action for a detailed narrative outline. So that is how you can get something better. And just to show that it does work, let's go ahead and grab this, because I like it, and put it here. And I'm going to highlight this and make sure it's not more than, it's only 124 words, so we're good. I'm going to copy it, come back into Story Engine. And where my outline is, I'm going to paste it in. So now I have that information in. I'm going to go to part 2, click start scene. It has that information. Before I do anything else, I need to fix my genre and my style, because it's writing for 1441 and I need 1812, 1813, historical, Regency fiction. And now I'm going to say generate these commands. And that's how you can use information that you have about a character or the emotional state, turn it into actual narrative summary that will plug into your outline to beef up a section. Was that helpful for anyone? Does it make sense, or do you have questions? Is everyone just playing with Story Engine right now?
This is Candy. So I think we all need to put that character arc. Your main character needs to change throughout the story, become, be one person when you start and then a different one at the end. So are we going to have to do that change scene by scene, or
Yes.
is there a way to put it in the character spot?
You could
like
do it
put in
either
a
way. You could,
Specific character?
yeah, you would
arc?
update the character information, or you would update it in the commands.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But that's like a senior writing partner decision. The junior writing partner can't decide that this character needs to change over yet.
Okay.
That's something for the future.
So
Um,
yeah.
I had a question. I write historical Cherokee adventure stories, which are not like the Western cultures, particularly with male dominance. It's matriarchal. And it keeps trying to write, I guess because of the time period, the men in power, the conflict around the sexes, that the men, is there some way you can create some kind of culture document that it could understand those things?
If you're having that problem with your commands and everything, you want to put that in your brain dump. You want to put all of that in your brain dump. Brain dump, I think,
Okay.
is actually about to get a rebrand, and brain dump is going to be called world building, because now
Oh,
that because this is the change that they made. The change they made is that now brain dump is considered when it creates the commands. So you can now use brain dump in your synopsis to help bridge those gaps of your magic system or your customs and values. So I would actually I would think of brain dump now as world building opportunity, and you could put whatever information you want in there and you could keep it in there. Another thing, everyone, would we all agree that my synopsis and my outline are generated? Yes. You could use brain dump now as a global box since it's considered in commands. I could delete everything out of my brain dump right now and use brain dump on a scene by scene basis for world building information that the scene needs for the commands, because it's going to read brain dump, synopsis, characters, and outline before it generates those commands.
okay.
So I actually like their change. Does that help, Deidre?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's where you would want to put the information in.
Okay.
So here I have, she's gazing out the window. I'm going to change this. Lost in thought about leaving Hertfordshire. Felt so final. Since her father passed the previous spring, I'll actually put it in. Jane, noticing Elizabeth's somber mood, gently takes her hand and offers a comforting smile. Caroline, eager to shift the focus to herself, begins to boast about her connections to Pemberley. Perfect. Mention of the library, asks about the books, confirms Mr. Darcy's love for books, but also hints that his friend has changed since Caroline last saw him.
Elizabeth,
Yes.
does it know? Do you have someplace else? I came in late, but do you have someplace else what time of the year it is? Because you said passing last spring. So, so how long has that been? Or do you need to hang a lantern on that?
That's a good question. And actually, I just realized I made that change there. I need to make the change here where I copied and pasted in here. Thank you for pointing that out.
Well, it's just because sometimes it's winter, sometimes it's summer. My
Yeah.
generations. And I'm trying to figure out how to anchor it in time.
July 1813. So I'm just going to put in that it's July 1813. And yes, I'm updating it everywhere I put it in here. And I'm going to put July 1813. So it knows that. And yeah, let's go ahead and do this.
Will that affect all the commands or just the first two?
It would just affect the first one, but remember, it's going to read the previous thing that it generated in the prose, so it will pick it up and it should maintain it.
Okay.
The other thing is that I want a break here.
So speaking of the breaks, Elizabeth, this is Jackie. I had an interesting situation happen to me this morning. I'm trying to figure out how to tell when having a break in a command is effective. Because like this morning, I was like, a tropical storm has hit the hotel, and then my characters have to do X, Y, Z, blah, blah. And the command decided we're going to start the story after the tropical storm has already hit. And so then I had to cancel and go back and go, no. Like, we want to start the story when the storm is hitting. And I don't know how to distinguish, like, what needs to be a separate command and what the AI can assume. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so your commands you want to make really robust and realize that they're going to run in pairs. So if it's July 1813 here, it's going to read this one. I don't need it there because we're not doing a change. So I would kind of breeze through this and make sure there's any part of here where it would not think that it was July 1813 anymore. So you may have to, every pair of the commands, say like it's after the storm.
Okay, because I didn't even think that I would need to say like, oh, like I want to start the scene with the storm happening until I saw it start to generate. I was like, oh no, wrong place in the story. This is not where I meant to put it.
Yeah. And there might be some pieces here with the prose that it reads the outline as well before it writes it, or the summary. They can look into those changes. But as far as I know right now, it was only doing characters and commands. And you could also throw that into the style box. If the whole scene is after the storm, you could also throw that in the style box too, and it would know that that's what's happening.
Yeah, well, my problem was the opposite, actually. I had mentioned that a storm was hitting the hotel, and it skipped the storm altogether and just decided that the entire chapter was going to be after the storm.
Oh, so then, yeah, I would throw that in the storm. I would throw that in the style box in the middle of the storm, just for that one scene being generated.
Okay.
Yeah, so it'll keep that detail. Yes, Verika.
Oh, it's Verica.
Oh, Verica, I'm sorry.
No, not at all. Actually, kind of like Verika. That's pretty cool. When I generated prose for a scene, the AI included a character and their dialogue that I did not want in the scene at all. I didn't mention her in the summary or in the command section or in the 12 parts that the AI generated. She is not mentioned at all. But when I generated the scene prose, that character showed up and ate up my word count. So how do I avoid that?
How much did it eat up your word count? Like, I mean, was it just mentioned and so it was like 50 words, or like it just went off on a tangent and started writing about her?
I mean, it didn't, there was like probably 5 characters in the scene. So it's not like she's a huge part of it, but she's in there and she's not mentioned whatsoever in this scene. So I'm just wondering how that happened. Do I need to say
without looking at your prompting, there may be something in there, or it may have just decided that she should be in there because it did read. It might have picked something up. So the tool's it's not exact because we're working with AI. So the best we can kind of get it is like pretty close. I would say that if it's just a small edit like that, you would take her out. But if it did start hallucinating like 200 or 300, 400 words about this character that's not mentioned anywhere, definitely let us know that that's a bug.
Okay. So I just, in the future, should I say this person is not in this scene?
Yes, you can do that. You can say that in the summary or in the commands, this person is not in this scene, and it will understand that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, JB. That was for answering that question. That's important. At this point, it's actually faster if you send it to me on Slack or anything like that. And then thank you, Paula, for sharing that Slack thing, the Slack information there. Yes, Rebecca.
Yeah, I have a question about tropes. Is it possible to put tropes somewhere and Sudowrite would know to incorporate them?
You should put the tropes in your brain dump so that it's reflected in your synopsis and your characters.
Okay.
You should
not
put
it as simple as like listing the tropes, and it will kind of know. Okay.
Cool. Yeah. You don't want to put it in your genre box because it will try to put that in every scene.
Okay. All right. So put it in
that goes in your synopsis or your your brain dump so that it gets reflected in your outline.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
And if you bring your own outline, make sure you put the tropes in the outline.
Okay.
So that's the other thing right now. In this particular case, I'm playing with my own outline. I know my outline matches the synopsis and the brain dump because, well, the brain dump is the outline. And so I know it matches. But that's where you want to make sure that you're not contradicting yourself and you don't have logic that conflicts with each other.
Thank you.
So right here with this scene right now, I have, so should you backfill the brain dump if you have your own synopsis and outline? You can use your brain dump basically to add more world building information. So right now I have an issue right here where my commands are not good. Okay, and I wanted to get to this so that you guys could see how I would fix the commands. My commands right now are discombobulated in the fact that this is like multiple scenes. They're not going to get in a carriage at the beginning and end up at Pemberley. So what I might do is go, I could change this and run it as multiple scenes. My easy fix to go is like all of this happens from the last in stop. So I'm gonna truncate it a little bit by changing it. This is my senior writing partner moment that I'm realizing. July 1813, after the last stop in Lambden. Elizabeth Bennet begins the carriage ride, gazing out the window. Yes, Jackie, you have a question.
Yes. So, how do you, I don't even know how to explain this. So yesterday I tried plugging in some information for a fairy tale retelling that I was working on. And it was a retelling of Jack and the Beanstalk. Sorry, this is important, I promise. And there's a character that is also currently stuck as a harp. And I said in the outline, like, she's currently stuck as a golden harp. And then I think this was a me problem, but I'm asking the question just so that I can make sure. I also, this is where I think I did the silly thing, described what she looked like or used to look like in human form. So the AI decided that a human was going to materialize out of a harp.
Yeah, that is actually where it got confused. So I would take out the description of what she looked like in human form unless it's necessary for the scene.
Okay.
And then I would update the status of her at the character box. So in the character box, I would say she's a harp. And then when you get to a scene where she's no longer a harp, you would change it. She was a harp and she's turning into a human, and this is what the human looks like. And then that way it can read the character box and know that she's making that transformation.
Okay, that's what I thought happened. I just want to make sure.
Yeah. Great question. So this felt final to her since her father died the previous spring in 1812. Mourning all over again. Okay. So I want this whole scene to be encapsulated in a carriage, but to keep the story time flow correct, because I'll have readers. You can't ride from Hertfordshire to Pemberley in one day. So I have to establish that it's after the last stop in Lambton. So, okay, we have that. And I'm going to click generate. And then this is the last thing I'm doing just to show how so see, it brought July 1813 right in. So I would take that out. But it's okay if it has to have these little signposts to me to keep on to stay on to it. It works. And I know the beginning's very showy, not telly, or very telly, not showy rather. I could always tweak that again with my laser tools later on. So here we go. Well, Jane's very profound. We are bound by blood and love, and nothing can sever that bond between us. I don't hate that, actually. That could be really cool later on to echo it when she's fighting the curse and she's like, nothing's going to sever the bond with my sister, or yelling at the portrait, there's a bigger love out there, which is sisterly love. Or this is where I love being the senior writing partner in this relationship, because the junior writing partner always gives me such great ideas that I could rip off of, things that I didn't even think about. You know, I'm quite familiar with Pemberley and Mr. Darcy. Indeed, my family and I have been in his company on many occasions. It is a magnificent estate, but I would not expect anything less from someone of Mr. Darcy's standings. And so then Elizabeth's poking the bear. That's pretty funny. Well educated, refined, and respected by all who know him. In fact, he has even been known to frequent the most exclusive circles in London. Tell us more, Caroline.
Somebody asked in the Slack last week if they thought that Story Engine was making them a better writer. And up until this morning, I would have said, meh, I'm about the same. And then this morning, I was like, oh, there's like 10 scenes in here that I didn't think about even putting in the book when I first like thought of the book. And there's all these like smaller moments, which for me is great because I have a lot of trouble figuring out what goes in the middle of the book and how to keep the story moving without like not having the romantic like date stuff happening for anyone else here who writes romance.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm finding Story Engine in particular is really good at going, okay, here's a little moment, and even if I don't like exactly what it comes up with, I'm like, oh, that is a good place to put this particular type of scene, and I wasn't even intending to put it in the chapter. So
yeah, I think that the AI is really, I mean, for me, it's helping that I'm having to edit and validate so many things. And so I'm reading this as it prompts, and I'm noticed, has anyone else noticed that it's got the crutch word of indeed right now? I've seen like 6 pieces of dialogue with the word indeed. Indeed. So that's an edit that I would have to make on this to like take all those indeeds out. I also saw a little did she know at the end of part 1, part 2. So it does have some cliches and stuff that I'm going to have to take out, but I know that I write with those cliches too in my first draft. So I'm not really bothered by it, because you see what happens with my dictation. I have to take out all the crutch words. So I agree with you, Jackie, that it is helping me be a better writer, because it's forcing me to validate a lot more writing than I could produce on my own in a smaller period of time.
I got 2 little did he knows in the same section.
Well, pin a rose on your nose.
I know. Tell me about it. Little did
we got
he
another
know.
indeed.
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 At least it's not using the word just cause.
Just yeah, that would be me if I was at the con. I put just everywhere. My editor hates it. Little did Leland know.
That's right. Little did Leland know that his list of words was being published on the internet.
Oh man, look at Jane. Jane's like the little philosopher. Perhaps we should not dwell too much on the past or the changes that time brings. And so that's a section right there. Like, as being a better writer, I would kill my darling right there. You get one or the other AI. You don't get to have a character say we should not dwell too much on the past or the changes that time brings. You get to pick one. I think it's a stronger piece of dialogue if I said, perhaps we should not dwell too much on the changes that time brings. Perfect line. Or perhaps we should not dwell too much on the past. Even better. That's probably more of my Jane Bingley, because she's kind of simple a little bit. She just wants peacekeeping all the time. But I would never have a piece of dialogue that says the past or the change that time brings. And this is me nitpicking, but I'm not unhappy with the words at all. And oh my goodness, we're at 1,700 words again.
So I hope I'm not the only one that does this one, but I mean, like I actually like will generate the prose twice, and then put them up in 2 tabs side by side, and then
Bash them
together.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that's a real thing. I think that that's a real exercise, and if that's how you want to write and explore your story, I think it's perfectly valid, because you are validating and going through a bunch of stuff and putting together like a really good scene that delights you. And if it delights you, if you're your reader zero, you're going to delight other readers.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there's another indeed. Can't stumble. You can't turn around in this scene without stumbling on an indeed.
Indeed.
Indeed. Connections are indeed important. Oh my goodness. All right. Nobody be doing a drinking game. Okay. We are not doing an indeed drinking game.
We can with coffee.
Yes. Take a sip of your water. Make sure you get your water in the day. It does not, it can write in screenplay format. It's not designed to do that though, Westby. So it's not great. I mean, in the style, you can just say that you want it for a screenplay and it'll try to make it screenplay-ish, but it's not going to be, you're going to have to do a lot of editing.
To be perfectly honest, everybody asks that question in almost every single class we've had for as long as I've been here. So I'm pretty sure they're working on it.
Yeah, we do have it as a list of like what's next. We are expanding our team. There's been the hiring button. So. Oh yes, the history button. Very, very helpful. Yes, we were all very excited when they brought history in. It's great. Thanks, Deidre. I'll make sure to scroll up and get your email that you sent me real fast so I don't lose it.
Thank you. This is great.
Mm-hmm.
I've watched every one that you've done.
Oh, thank you. It is in beta, just so you know. So it is going to eat your words.
Yes, I've watched every one that you've done. So yes, they're very good.
I think this one has a chance of making Elizabeth run out of words.
Ooh. All right, thank you.
Okay, I can add myself more.
Yeah, I know you can cheat, but that's
I can.
But still, it'll make the rest of us not feel so bad when you show us these are my word counts, and I have like 800,000 out of the 300,000.
That's a bug right now. Like I got so the thing is that my account that I used for my writing and everything like that got turned into my staff account, so I wouldn't lose my writing that I was working on and everything.
That's nice.
And it's actually a good thing for me to finally get it below 300,000 words. So when I do Sudowrite 101s, it's not showing I've got 600,000 words now. I was excited that I dropped below into the 500s now.
It was admittedly confusing.
Yeah. I wish there was a way to fix it. I guess there is probably somewhere, but
there is Story Engine.
As far as a list of priorities, it's not. Okay. So I got 2890 that time, which I'm pretty happy with this. This is definitely going to have to do a lot of rewrites. So if I copy my words and bring it into here, and I will go add new. This was outline. And this is scene 2. I'll paste this in, 2890 words. And then what I would truly do if I was working with this, and this is what my next workflow would be, I would go and get the commands. I would validate the snot out of my commands, make sure my commands are exactly what I want before I click that prose button, to generate the prose button. Then I would use my commands to help guide my editing, because if I've decided that the commands are exactly how I want the scene to go, now I would bring in commands 1 and 2, and then I would just start working slowly through this passage. I actually love that it's broken up, because basically I would start with just this one section and start making this section work. Once this section was done, I would go get my commands for 3 and 4 and start going there and making sure that it validates there. When I was ready to put these two pieces together, this is a quick trick for you guys. I'm going to take out the 3, 4. And you can, actually this one's pretty good, but you could always highlight this and you could rewrite and you could go customize. Have the transition between paragraphs go smoother. That's the command. I hate writing transitions, by the way. Let's see if it does a better job. Because Caroline's not going to sense an opportunity to regain the attention just because she got quiet real fast. We'll see how that works. As the carriage, she knew that despite, okay, it looks like it made no changes whatsoever.
Yeah.
First card. Okay, I'm going to put it down on that. And that one's not great either. So let me do it a different way because that did not give me what I wanted. Let's just put here. This might be a bad example too. And I'm just writing off the cuff, so I don't need to do this on the video, but I just wrote in a whole sentence there. But that's one of the ways that you could look at it, because this is 3.4, I think, right here. One of the ways that you could start looking at these transitions. I like that it puts the passage in there like 3, 4, 5, 6. So I know where the pieces were run separately, and I would want to do a double check and make sure that this flows and reads okay from this to this. It does read the previous part before it writes the next part, so it looks like it's pretty good. But that's where it's nice that we have these signposts to make sense of it.
It's gotten better, but I love the signposts.
Yes. Signposts are great for a pre-flight check. And then you can always just take this. And what's great is that this is where the rewrite would be a little bit more robust, bringing that in. I could actually rewrite these sections. So I know that we are going to make rewrite more robust and being able to do things. So. Okay, let me go back to Story Engine. Was there anything else I was supposed to test? Okay, I'm going to stop the share and stop the recording.